Welcome everybody to the 34th episode of the Advanced Dungeons and Dynamics 365 bare bones configuration series. In this process, every day we're spending around about 30 minutes working through the setup of Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations from the ground up. So we started with a blank system, and over the past 33 episodes, we've gone out and we've configured the base system, we've configured the general ledger, we've configured cash and bank management, and in the 33rd episode, which may also be called the 32nd because of a typo, we finished off the accounts receivable. So we went through and we set up all the customers and the some of the credit and collections and the management and so forth around that. So in this episode, what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the next module. So the last module in the finance and operations, which is the accounts receivable. And let me just check something. So what we're going to do is we're going to start the accounts payable. And in here, we're going to go out and we're going to configure the vendors. We're going to go out and do a number of things for the vendors. We're going to create invoices, pay the invoices, and all of those things, everything sort of vendor and payment related. After that, we're going to have completed the finance section, and we can move on to the supply chain, which is my favorite area, my most favorite area, and we can go out and we can do a number of different things in that. But with that said, with this little bit of a preamble, what we're doing today is we're going out and we're starting with the accounts receivable. So what we've got is if you haven't seen this is our lab environment that we're building up, and we're working in the Waterdeep Trading Company, the purveyor of the finest adventuring supplies and goods in all of Faerûnian, and we're working through this, and we're going to move through the accounts payable. So again, we've configured the accounts receivable and all of those other areas. So what we're using for this is we're going through and we're using the bare bones configuration guides. And this is a set of step-by-step contiguous instructions that we can follow that help us work through and configure all of the system. So we're not thinking, what should we do next? What do we searching through the documentation individually? We've got this link that allows us to go out and, or this document that allows us to go out and see all of this information. So we might get through this first module, which is the accounts payable controls, today, because it's going to be pretty straightforward. But what we're going to do is we're going to set up some additional journals for the payables, which we've been setting up along the way, and then create some payment methods, which we may or may not have already set up in the system, and then update the parameters. So with that said, what we're going to do is let's work through this. And I'm doing what you would be doing if you were using the lab environment and if you were setting all of this up yourself. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the accounts payable journals. Now, we've already set up, so we'll see that we've set up some of these, and we've done them for accounts receivable and collections and deductions and some other areas, but we haven't done that for the accounts payable. So what we're going to do is we're going to create these journals. And we're going to create, I think, four of them, and I'll explain them as we go along. But as you can see, we've got the step-by-step instructions on what we need to do in order to set this up. And the first one is that we're going to set up is the vendor payment. So if I return back to Dynamics, and let me just take a drink of coffee, then what we're going to do is we're going to start by opening up the journal names. And the journal name, we're going to go into the general ledger for this. Although, Yeah, we're going to go into the general ledger, although there's other areas that we can actually access this. The general ledger is the main area that we want to open the journal name. So we could do that through the menu search, which I've shown you a lot of times, or we can go down to the general ledger and go to the journal names, which, as you can see, I pretty much know where this is off by rote learning from doing this so many times. But we're going to open up the journal names form. This is where we have all of the different transaction types that we can perform. And you can see that we've got the customer ones here, but we're going to go out and create another one or some more for the vendor. We're going to start with the vendor payment. And this is how we're going to create our checks or our electronic payments for the vendor. Now, this is going to be a vendor disbursement. So what we're going to do is choose the different type of journal here so that we know that this is a vendor disbursement. And then what we need to do is we need to create a number sequence for this that we can track. So we've already done that for the other ones. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go into the number sequences, and we're going to take a shortcut and use the right mouse click and go into the view details to take us over to the number sequences form. And I'm going to create another number sequence here. And this is going to be vendor payment 01. And this is going to be my vendor payment. This is going to be a company number sequence, so it's going to be specific to the Waterdeep Trading Company, and I'm going to add a constant middle of this so that we know that whenever we create these transactions or create these journals, if it has APPM for AP payment, then that's going to be the journal name for me. And I'm just going to mark that as continuous. We always mark them, the number sequences for the journals as continuous, save it, go back, and then I can find the vendor payment number sequence, and I'm just going to save that. So that's the first item. Now we're going to create a handful more. So we're going to create another one, which is AP invoice. And then this is going to be vendor invoice recording journal type, and then we need another number sequences. So I'm going to go to the number sequences here. This is going to be AP invoice 01. This is going to be for a company, Waterdeep Trading Company, and this is going to be APIN, and I'm going to mark it as continuous and save this and move back, and then select the AP invoice number sequence. So now we've got a way to create an invoice for the vendor, and then also we've got a way to pay for the vendor. Now, also what we're going to do is we're going to create, let me see, we're going to create two more, which we're not going to use right now, but the next one is going to be an invoice register, just in case we want to use that. And this is going to be invoice register. And then we're going to go and create a number sequence for this. One. It's going to be for the company, the Waterdeep Trading Company. And this is going to be AP invoice register, continuous, save that, go back. I'm going to choose the AP invoice register number sequence that we created, and we'll create one last one. And this will be this we won't fully configure. but this is going to be for invoices that have an approval workflow. So this is where later on we'll probably we'll activate this. And the journal type or AP invoice approval. And then this is going to be, let's see, it's going to be journal type approval up here. And then we're going to create a number sequence for this. It's going to be for the company, Waterdeep Trading Company, and this is going to be AP approval. I'm going to mark that as continuous. So let's back out of here. It's going to be, going to look and we're going to find the AP invoice approval that we've got there and then save that. So now what we've got is we've got the vendor payment, we've got the AP invoice, we've got the invoice register and the invoice approval journals created. So that's great. So now that we've got that, we've got the base transactions that we need in the system. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to the next step of the setup, which is the vendor posting profiles. Now we set these up for the customer. If you remember back to some of the earlier in accounts receivable, we set up these posting profiles to say what are the defaults and how do we, when we post a transaction, then what do we do? And we need these because we need to, well, later on, and today what we'll do is we'll assign these in the parameters for the accounts payable. And then if we don't do this, then we'll get ugly errors every time we try to do a transaction on payables. So we need to have these posting profiles configured. And we'll create one for just a general posting, and then another one for prepayments where we give a prepayment to the vendor. And these are going to be pretty straightforward within the system. So let's return back to our server and go back to Dynamics. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for the vendor posting profiles. So I can search for that through the menu search, or I can go into accounts payable and then the setup and then vendor posting profiles, which is right here. So this is going to take us into the posting profiles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another one. I'm going to create one here. And this is going to be general, and it's going to be general posting profile. I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to create a posting profile here that applies to that we can say when I'm posting for vendors. And what do I do? We've got the option here that we can have a posting profile for a particular vendor. So if we want to treat a particular vendor way with postings, then we can do that. Or we could say for vendors, maybe for all of the taverns, we have different postings associated with them. Or what I'm going to do is I'm going to say for all of my vendors, I'm going to create a posting profile. And then the summary account, let's see, should be 2000. And that's going to be accounts payable. And then, let's see. And then what we want to do is we want to have the arrival account being accounts payable and the offset account being accounts payable as well. So we're not going to worry about the liquidity or the sales tax payments right now because we're not worrying about taxes. And then we want to go out and create another one, which is prepayments. And we're going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to add this in, and I'm going to say that this is for all vendors. And I'm going to choose 2000. Now for this, because we're doing a prepayment, then we need a liquidity account. And let's see. let's do a search for tax. And so the liquidity account is going to be going to sales tax. And let's see if we've got the accruals account. We're going to have the prepayments going to accruals, and then we're going to have the so let me just check this. The sales summary account is 2,000. The payments is going to be that the arrival is going to go to the accrual. So when this arrives, we're accruing that, and then the offset account is going to be accounts payable. So I'm trying to keep all of the accounts sort of in line as we're sort of moving through this. So this has gone out, and now we've created these posting profiles that are going to be applied whenever we manage a transaction. So that's pretty cool. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create some payment methods, and I need to check to see whether we'll find out whether these carry over between accounts receivable and accounts payable. But we may or may not have to set these up. But we're going to create a payment method for a check payment, and then also we're going to create one for electronic payments, for post-dated checks, and I think that's it. So let's go and do that. And we're getting close to the end of all of this core sort of control setup. So we're really moving through this pretty quickly. But I'm going to choose. I want the method of payment, and I want the accounts payable method of payment. So I can do a search here, and I can find the accounts payable list here. Or what I can do is I can go over to payables and go to payments, setup, payment setup, and methods of payment here as well. Okay, so we don't actually have these set up. So the payment methods that we use within the payables is going to be separate from the different ways that we're receiving in our payment. So let's create, let me see. So what we're going to do is we're going to create our 3 payments, maybe some other, because I may want to pay in coin. But we'll start off with check payments. Let's go back. So we're going to choose the check. I think I'm sitting on my cord here. And then this is going to be a check payment. And the method of payment is going to be, the payment type is going to be check. So let me just check that I'm doing this. Let's see as we go through. So what I want to do is, this is a check. It's going to be a check payment. The period is going to be invoice, and the payment type is going to be check. Now, also what we want to do is we want to select where the payment format sits here. So what we're going to do is we need to have an export format that's associated with this, I think. So we're going to work through this. What we need to do is so let's go back here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the payment setup, and I'm going to go setup, and I'm going to say, what are the different options that we have for our payments? And I want to choose the check payment and move this over as a valid payment method. So okay. So then I can now go out to the export format and say that this is a check payment. So what I'm saying here is we've got all of these different file formats that we can use, and I'm going to say that I'm allowing a check to be paid, and then I'm going to use the check export format. And then let's see. And then also what I want to do is I want to choose a bank account that's associated with this, and I'm going to pay from my operating account. So that's, and then I'm going to choose the manual deposits. That's a bank trade. Actually, I'm going to choose the printed payments, because I think that's actually a better transaction for this. So when we go back to the bank reconciliation, then this bank transaction type is what's going to be associated with the with our reconciliation account. So now that I've done that, then we've got so we've configured our check payment. So let's create another one for our electronic payments. And this is the payment type. It's still going to be, actually going to be electronic payment. We'll see how that works. We're going to pay this from a bank account. We're going to pay it electronically from the operating account of Faerûnian Standard Dollars. This is going to be an electronic payment. And then we actually don't need a file here, but I've got a note here that we need to specify some required details that are associated with this. So what I'm going to do is I want to say I want the bank transaction type to be mandatory, and I want the bank offset account to be specified. So what these are sort of flags or controls on our payment. And I'll create one last item, and this is going to be a post-dated check. And this is going to be the payment type. It's going to be a check. We're still going to have that being paid from a bank account. So these post-dated checks would be dated after when we create them, and they shouldn't be deposited at that point. We're going to say that this is a bridging, and then let's see, and we want the account to be 2950. Let me just updating my documentation with that. And the bank transaction type is going to be a manual payment. So there's our payment manual. And then because this is we need to say that the check number is mandatory, and then have bridging enabled, and we actually don't have that. So I'm just saying that I need to actually record the check number here as I go through. So now we've got 3 different ways that we can pay. We're going to pay most of ours through the check, but we've got some other options for us. So the final item that we're going to do is now that we've set up our payments and our posting profiles and all of the core information, we're going to finish off this this short module by going out and just configuring the accounts payable parameters with all this information, so that it's automatically going to default in for us. So we're going to go out and I think look through here, but all we really need to do are manage the payment, the prepayments, and the posting profiles that are associated with our accounts payable parameters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the accounts payable parameters. I can search for that here. Sometimes for this one, it's actually easier just to go to the setup, because the accounts payable parameters the parameters for the module is always the first item in the setup. And I'm going to open that up. And then what we've got is we've got all of our default information over here in the accounts payable. So I actually want to open up the ledger and sales tax view. My default posting profile is going to be general. My prepayment posting profile is going to be prepayment, and then the posting profile for prepayments is going to be prepayment as well. So now that that's pretty much all we need to set up. And if I look at this, we'll look at some other information. So as we move here, let's expand all of these, and we can have a quick look and see if there's anything else we need. In the general area, we haven't got any vendors, so we can't set up a one-time vendor. We don't have any groups that are associated with it. The invoice matching will turn on, but we don't configure that. Settlement, we don't have any information that we need to provide there. And then some of the other ones, like the invoice matching and the vendor invoice automation, are going to be services that run in the background. So we've actually done that. So we saved that, and now we're done. So we've now finished the configuration of all of the general controls that we have for the accounts payable area. So this is the foundation that we're using for accounts payable, and then from now on, I think the next module is going to be creating vendors, and then after that we'll create some invoices and do some other things. So we're at a good point to stop. We're coming up on the 30-minute mark. So we'll just cut it off here. I hope this is interesting. So it gives you an idea of some of the setup that's required. It's not a lot for the accounts payable area. There's just we just need to make sure our posting profiles are correct here. So with that said, we'll close off. If anyone has any questions, then don't hesitate to put them in the chat or text me. I'm pretty easy to find on YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever you may find me. If you want to support this project, this grassroots project, to go out and document the base configurations of Dynamics, then don't hesitate to go to the Patreon site, patreon.com/AD&D365, and you can become a follower or a benefactor or whatever you may want, and it helps keep these servers up and running. If you want to see all of the modules that I'm using to actually work through these processes, then you can go to AD&D365.com/start, and all of these guides are going to be available there for you all to pick up and do this yourself if you want to. So, and if you want a lab, then just call us and we can work out the details of getting you a temporary lab so that you can actually go through all these processes yourself. So with that said, we'll close off the 34th episode, and in the 35th episode, we're going to start creating vendors. So have a great day or evening or whatever time zone you're watching this in.